Well, partner, here we go again, another episode of our podcast and the round table, I like to call it. We got some special guests for our podcast today, and I'm looking forward to it because, again, as a forensic person, I like to, as a detective and looking at forensic units, I like to see what they're going to bring to the table.
Absolutely. Forensics has been a hotbed issue, hotbed topic with media and television and shows, and I know we've all been on calls where people think that we can do all the great things that they see on the 30-minute show that they get accomplished in 12 minutes.
Yeah.
But today we have the people who both supervise and do the actual work.
Exactly.
So it gives a different view to the public of who they are behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. And we got two special guests that's going to be introduced in a moment about their history with Chesterfield County Police Department. Got a Sergeant Cooper. And, of course, we got one of my best people, forensic investigator Coombs, that is looking forward to telling us about her career because, again, she was in our position at one time.
Yeah, she has longevity in the department and still working and still doing a great job for us.
Yep. Want to introduce yourself first?
Certainly. I'm forensic investigator Sandra Coombs. I have been with the department for just over 29 years.
Okay, good.
Wow, that's great. So you've seen a lot of changes in that 29 years.
Definitely. Technology has come a long way, is one thing. The science has improved. Who would have thought that we could get your DNA off of that water bottle 29 years ago? Nobody thought that was possible.
Yeah, right.
I mean, really, when I started as a patrol officer, that's where I started. Having an in-car radio that you could pop out and take with you on a call was the newest tech thing.
Exactly.
After that, I had a child, and he ended up being born prematurely, and I had a lot of some responsibilities thrown at me. He has special needs, and I needed to work part-time. At that time, we didn't have the part-time police officer position, but I did go to work in records and worked there for a while. And once life kind of calmed down, the forensic position came available. That was kind of my goal to begin with as a police officer. It had transitioned to civilian, and I was able to apply for it, and I've been in forensics now for 15 years.
Okay, so you actually were in law enforcement as a patrol officer for how long? Maybe a couple of years?
About 6 years.
About 6 years. Cool, awesome. Now, did you have to do the forensic tech at that time? Did we have forensic techs?
Actually, we did. We had that back then. We had like one or two forensic detectives who were sworn, and we had forensic techs, UAB evidence techs, which we still have. Officers are able to go to our UAB Tech Road School and perform forensic duties to supplement our unit. They'll do everything from simple mailbox vandalisms all the way up to natural deaths and suicides.
Now, as far as education to be in forensic, did you go to college for forensic science?
I didn't go specifically for forensic science, but it worked out. The college I went to, now Mary Washington, or University of Mary Washington.
Okay.
They didn't have a criminal justice program. I figured out along the way in college that criminal justice was what I wanted to do, but I continued with my biology program and actually have a BS in biology.
Oh, awesome.
Which actually transitioned well into the forensic world.
Okay, cool. Let's get to Sergeant Cooper. Let's get a little bit about your history.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Chesterfield County. Graduated from Manchester High School in 2006. Went to Longwood University, and Elliott actually got me out of there. I met him in the dining hall one day. He was recruiting, so graduated.
You were a baseball player. Is that right?
In high school, but
High
not in college. But yeah, I met Elliott, and I'm from Chesterfield and wanted to come back and be a police officer. Graduated in 2010. Started the police academy about a week after graduation. So
oh wow,
yeah, it started pretty quick. Worked out really well. I've been with the department for 12 years now. Was promoted in December of 2017 to be a supervisor. And I took over the forensics unit in October of 2020, and that's where I've been since then. Okay,
so when you, as a patrol officer, what were some of your other duties as a patrol officer?
Right, so I was never a UOB tech, surprisingly enough. So kind of went into the deep end with the forensics world. I was a patrolman for a while. I worked in the schools for a few years. Did a little bit of time with the crime prevention unit during the summers, did a summer at the academy, so did a few different things, and I was able to get promoted out of the schools and went to the road.
Awesome, awesome. So getting into where we are in this forensic thing, I know in investigations we need you. I know the patrol officer needed you. So what are we doing now to make this unit? Well, you've seen it from the beginning, and if you want to go back over that a little bit to where we are now in forensics.
Wow, we've come a really long way. Like I said, I believe we had 2 forensic detectives when I first started who basically did all of the major crime scenes.
And when you say major crime scenes, what are those?
Essentially homicides.
Okay.
Maybe some of the missing persons that get more complicated. Suicides.
Things that are more in depth.
Yeah, suspicious deaths. Or even something like a shooting that's maybe nobody is deceased, but
Right.
if there's a lot of different elements going
Dynamics
on.
to it, right.
Right.
So back in the day, we had the UOB techs that supplemented the unit, and that was basically
Right. At that time.
what we had. Again, we had folks that did fingerprints, analyst, and now we have gone to our forensic investigators are all civilian, which is nice because we can concentrate all of our training within our unit. We're not getting moved to other parts of the department, and all of our training stays with us. And we also have a video analyst, one full-time, one part-time. We have 2 examiners who their sole responsibility is to analyze cell phones, and those 2 positions are sworn. We have 2 sworn officers doing that, and we also have a latent examiner who's
Okay.
full-time, along with at fully staffed we have 2 sergeants and a lieutenant.
So how many forensic investigators do you have all together without the sworn officers?
10 forensic investigators.
10. Okay.
And so you have the 10, Sergeant Cooper, and they're not 24 hours?
Yes.
What type of shift do they work?
So we cover the road or cover calls for service from 6 in the morning until 1 in the morning. But we also have an on-call schedule. So at any point of the day, if you need a forensic investigator, if any of those calls come out, we can provide you with somebody to come out there and process the scene.
Okay. So we get in recruiting. We go to a lot of universities. And one thing some folks said, I don't want to be sworn. I want to be a forensic tech. That's my major. I'm a forensic tech major. So what do we tell them how they can to better position themselves to be where you are? Can they come in as police officers and then once they become officers, do a lateral transfer and be a civilian?
Yeah, I think that's happened in the past, and our department does a great job. You know, we do have our civilian road techs, but our civilian investigators. We also have our UOB techs. So that's something if you want to be a sworn officer out the bat, and you do have a forensic thing that interests you, we'll put you through a week-long school, and we'll teach you how to be a forensic investigator. Basically, You're still going to be a patrol officer. You're going to do some forensic duties, and that's something that can transition really well into the civilian side if that's something that you want to do and a spot opens up.
But we do not have a lot of turnover in forensic tech investigators or forensic technicians that are civilian.
No, it's a very well-seasoned unit. Our people enjoy where they work. They work really well together, and we don't see a lot of people leaving. We've had 1 retirement since I've been there, and that's really it.
And I know when those applications come in, we get a lot of applications from across the country for it.
Yes, so I had the pleasure of doing that. It was probably like 2 months into the job. The other sergeant and I got to go through 248 applications.
Yes.
This
Wow.
arranged. It was actually international. We had people from Europe that were applying, California. We ended up hiring one person from Michigan, who's worked out really well, and a local person who was actually an ECC operator. And they're both doing great. They've been there for a little over a year.
Well, educate me on a case. Walk me through getting on the scene of a case. Hey, we have a shooting. We talked about shootings. I know being a detective, we get you out there. We call you. Walk me through your job as a forensic investigator.
Pretty much you do your documentation. The documentation includes photos, notes, and sketches. and you have a checklist that you follow, and it makes it really easy. That way, there's a million things going on, and different people are asking you questions, and you're receiving information. You've got that notepad. You're able to write things down and remember where you are. It's like follow the checklist. That is your best friend.
Okay.
I know you said you utilize technology's come a long way. Do you utilize like 360 cameras or
Drones.
drones?
I like the
or
drones.
any of the fast speed stuff that people see on television? How does that come into play?
Yes, we have recently started utilizing the drone, the UAS, and it works out well. A lot of times we used to have the plane fly over and take photographs from aerial photographs, and a lot of times in Chesterfield we have a lot of foliage, which is nice, but when you're looking at a crime scene, you can't always see through the trees very well.
Right.
And that drone being low level, it really captures the scene a lot better.
Okay.
So that is one nice technology that has.
There's one thing they're kind of looking at with measurements with the drones. That way we can do overall measurements using the thing from above to get a little bit of an overall picture, because people in court love pictures and videos and to kind of feel like they're there. So that's something that could help us out in the future we're looking at.
Okay, so you spoke about fingerprints, like me touching this plastic bottle. How advanced is that now? I mean, remember, I'm again, and being an investigator, I remember, like, my excitement was, can we get a print off of certain surfaces? Walk me through surfaces that we can get prints off of that we can help investigate a case.
Right. A lot of what we get fingerprints off of are, honestly, I think you'll have talked about larceny from autos recently. Larceny from autos are great surfaces where we can obtain fingerprints. That smooth metal on a car is beautiful, as long as it's not pollen season. People will touch the car, leave behind those oils and amino acids on the car and the ridge detail, and leave some lovely fingerprints that we can then compare. And if they're in the system, then we can find out possibly who broke into the vehicle. Surfaces that aren't so good would be your textured surfaces.
Sure.
A stolen car, you think the person who stole it absolutely touched the steering wheel. 99.99% of steering wheels are textured. They're that plasticky or leather material that just are not good surfaces for holding fingerprints. So that's kind of the difference. Your fabrics are not good surfaces to get fingerprints off of, but smooth surfaces, glass, plastic, metal, usually beautiful.
Okay.
I know Detective Skinner. I know Daryl just asked about being. That's what happens when you work with someone who's been a detective 30 years. But I know Daryl asked about being on the scene of a crime. What's the shortest amount, or what is the longest amount of time?
Oh, yeah.
You've had to work a scene, because we know from working here, the scene is a vital aspect to the conclusion of the case.
Right.
But we also know you all have a lab. We know that you have equipment in your lab. You got to store, document, What's the longest? How does that work? I mean,
We had a particular scene. There were it was a double homicide with an additional person shot. It was called in the news a mansion party, where there was some shooting that happened. We were on scene there for 4 days.
right.
Now, not 24 hours, but basically 14, 16-hour days.
And the scene is secure. So
Yes.
even when your unit left, we leave
We have patrol officers
officers there to secure it to make
Yes.
sure it's still.
Maintain the integrity of the
Right,
evidence.
right.
Yes. And then there were an additional 4 days where, even though we mark the evidence on scene and it's sealed on scene, we still have to come back and we have additional labeling that we need to do to submit it to our property section and paperwork that needs to be done. So it was an additional 4 days of documentation.
Right. So once you finish the crime scene and you can wrap it up and give it back to the owner, to release the property back to them, or the scene back to them, now you prepare them for the next level, which is court.
Yes.
Walk me through, your relationship that you have to have with not only the officer, the detective, and your supervisor, but also the Commonwealth attorney.
Right. The main thing is writing your detailed report.
Right.
And making sure that everything is up to par there. Communicating with your detective. We are talking about what kind of lab submissions we want to make. Are we sending things for firearms, for DNA analysis? Are there any items that we need to process for latents? Because we do most of our latent processing in-house. And then we are also, the lead detective and I, on, say, a homicide, would be conferring with whatever Commonwealth attorney is assigned, making sure that we have all the lab submissions that they would like. And also collaborating with the state lab to make sure that they will accept all of the lab submissions that we want. Because sometimes they'll look at it from a different perspective and be like, maybe you should look at submitting this instead of this item. So they know which evidence is most probative. And then once it gets closer to time for court, we may be creating displays for court. Technology has also improved in the courts where they have large display screens and things, and with the digital photographs, they're able just to pop up those photographs on the screen, and which makes it very nice. The jury can see it, and everybody in the courtroom can see very well what's going on. We may be doing final sketches, nice digital computer-generated sketches, and blowing those up, doing a nice poster of those. We've, in the past, done, put things in plexiglass for displays, create photo boards for the Commonwealth, also conferring with the Commonwealth on what evidence we need to bring to court.
But you don't have a lot of communication with the victim themselves in a case. You still leave that up to the detective to do that interview and communication.
Yeah, kind of the way I like to describe it. We collect the puzzle pieces.
Right.
And we kind of give it to investigations, the detectives, to kind of put the puzzle together.
Okay.
And with the evidence and the lab results and the victim testimony or the victim statements and witness statements, the detective puts the whole case together.
See, a lot of times the forensic investigators don't get the full credit that they do need, that they do deserve. They think the detective is doing all of that work, and we're not. I mean, they're not doing the work that we, especially when it comes down to forensic. So I want to thank you all, because there's been a lot of times in court that I get in court and I'm like, I have no clue what's going on. But she can answer all the questions that you need to know. Sergeant, your role in this, where do you come in at?
Yeah, so on homicide scenes or major scenes like that, I talked about I don't really have a past in forensics, so my job is to make sure they have everything they need. And when you get on hectic scenes, a lot of times you have different people pulling you in different directions. Like they could be working on a car or something like that, and then they want something from a house collected. So my job is to be kind of the middle person between my investigators and the CID people usually, to kind of let our people do their job and let them really focus on what they need to do. Because there's a lot of attention to detail with their job, and they want to make sure they're not missing anything. So that's usually what I do. Scene security. We have either barriers or tents we put up, for victims, so that, they're not in the middle of the street or something like that. Really trying to make sure that they're taken care of, and making sure our people have everything they need.
Okay.
How many calls for service did you all have last year? Do you have any idea? I didn't get that data, which is unusual, beforehand.
No question.
It's a lot. If you think about our unit, they're really going to touch just about every case our department handles, from homicides, traffic fatalities. It could be like she's talking about mailbox vandalism. It's a little bit of everything. We have our hands in everything, and then you get behind the scenes stuff when they're going to court and helping all these people out. I remember we had one recently where Shorty and I went out at about 10 o'clock at night. I went home and got a little sleep about 2 o'clock in the morning. I came back, and I don't think she left until like 11:30 the next day. So we had to shoo her away. So that's just, it speaks to the work ethic of the people that we have in our unit.
No question.
They love to work, and if they get on something they don't want to stop, you got to kind of pull them back a little bit, and that's tough sometimes.
And I think that this is unusual that we have civilian forensic techs in law enforcement, especially on the East Coast. I know of a few other departments in our area and throughout the state who have that, but a lot of departments still rely on sworn detectives as forensic investigators. What suggestions would you have for potential applicants as far as education or getting some ride-alongs or hand-on experience to make themselves available for the position. I know when I was previously in HR, when the positions became available, a lot of people had the education, but had no practical experience whatsoever.
Yeah, going back to the 248 applications to try to sift through all that. It's mostly bachelor's degrees or better, with an emphasis on forensic investigating. One person we have is from West Virginia University. She did a great job of outlining exactly what she did in college, not specifically down to the courses, but like major projects she worked on. So we could see that she knew about chain of custody, evidence collection. She could really speak to that kind of stuff in the interview, and that really made her stand out really well. So if you're interested in forensics and you want to be a non-sworn person, I would say look at the forensics world in college, or if you're in between, and you don't know exactly what you do, we have the PSA program, which is incredible.
Yes.
And our people put them through the same week, pretty much academy that our UOB techs get. So if you get to a point where you're coming into that interview process, you can talk about evidence collection. You can talk about chain of custody. You pretty much you were taught by our people. So I would tell younger people who are interested in that, they don't know exactly what they want to do yet. PSA program is incredible for that type of stuff.
Awesome. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And once they're here, do we offer them any specialized continuing education through Virginia Forensic Science Academy or the Body Farm in Tennessee, or sculpting, or what do we do to continue to enhance their skills?
Yeah, specifically, we like our people to go to the Department of Forensic Science Academy. It's a little tough to get into, but a lot of our people have gone through that. We're pretty open with our people. They like to do a little specialty stuff. We have one person who's been in Hanover the past 3 weeks at a fire investigation school.
Oh.
So he's kind of like our expert in that. Shorty does a lot with trajectory. We have one person who does a lot of latent stuff. One person can do cell phones. So it's pretty wide open. We let our people kind of explore what really makes them interested in forensics. We do a really good job of making sure they get to the training that they want to go to. And our unit, like I said, it's like a family. They'll cover for each other. They'll cover shifts to make sure that people can go to the training they want to go to.
Well, cool. Now, do we work with other localities in helping them with their forensic, if they have a small, I won't say any specific jurisdiction, but do we help other localities?
There have been times where we have gone to other jurisdictions to help them out.
Okay, cool.
And we've actually done training. Some of the neighboring jurisdictions wanted us to do training, and we did UOB tech schools for them.
Good.
So that they could work on getting their forensic people up to doing the same kind of thing that our officers do.
We like to help others. Again, we like that partnership is important for us. So now we want to get into your wellness. I want to talk about what do you do? And we Elliott and I, we always talk about things that we try to keep our minds clear from sometime law enforcement and to our families and things. So Sergeant, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm blessed. I have 3 daughters at home, so they take up a
lot.
Yeah,
So you're getting your hair done, your nails done, makeup.
I've shown up to an overtime gig with a princess sticker on my cheek before. I'm not gonna lie. So I spend a lot of time with my daughters, my family, and that's what really keeps me centered. We like to do, we go for walks. My daughters love to fish, so we have a family bit of land. We can go out there and fish in the pond. Just spending time with the family, just unwinding, disconnecting a little bit.
Yes.
Making sure I can, pay as much attention to them as I can and really be present with them.
Good. And family is very supportive of your occupation, your career?
They're great. And I come from a family of public service. My dad was a battalion chief with Chesterfield County Police, so I have that bond with him. He kind of knows some of the stuff we go through. I can talk to him about a couple things. My wife did a great job. She read some books and stuff recently, so she knows what to look for and make sure I'm doing okay. If I have a tough day, I can talk to her about it, and she really looks out for me. She does a good job.
Awesome. Now this is going to be interesting here, because we know your spouse.
Yes, you do.
Tell us about your time, your wellness.
Well, basically, I am married to a retired Chesterfield County police officer. He did, I believe, 27 years in law enforcement. He's still a police specialist with the department, so it's nice that he can work part-time. Again, the focus on family, faith, and just, kind of separating yourself. I like to say compartmentalize. You leave those things at work. But then again, even if it is something that is bothering me, I can talk to him. He kind of knows what goes on. So I can talk to him about anything that's bothering me. If I do have a situation that I feel like I need professional help.
Right. Sure.
We do have a department psychologist who we can, see. And as a matter of fact, in forensics, like twice a year in policy, we are supposed to either talk to the department psychologist or have some sort of mental health training.
Okay.
So we do provide that for our unit.
But the one thing I do know about your family, you and your husband, y'all take a little trips every now and then and wind down, which is, I love that.
And
Yeah.
canned
Getting away.
200 jars of vegetables.
Yes, I like to do some of those traditional skills. I enjoy crocheting.
Yes, yes.
That takes my mind off of it. Watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like I said, canning and cooking, that's kind of therapeutic
Good.
for me.
It is. Well, good. Anything you want to add as we close out?
No, I mean, look, there's plenty of opportunities if you want to get into our unit. It might not be right out the gate. If you want to go the soaring route, please come on down. Let us know you're interested. We'll put you through a week-long school. If you're not quite 21 yet, come be a PSA. You're going to get that training right out the academy.
Right.
And if you just want to be a civilian, always apply, and we'll see if we have anything open up.
Right. Good. And you can see that folks stay here. Once they come and get part of this family, they stay, and that's important for us because now they're getting the training that they need, and they're keeping it in house to better our police department and our community, which is, I do love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, part of man, we knocking it out now.
Yes,
huh?
they did. They did a great job. Forensics is a hot issue.
Yes, it is.
And
Yes, it
people
is.
really like it. And I tell you, we have, I think, a second to none forensic prison unit. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I can't be camped out anywhere for 4 days
Well, they
doing the
saved
same
me.
thing over and over.
They saved me, man. I'm telling you, they saved me in court.
I do like Shorty. Shorty's a nickname.
Nickname.
Said about being able to speak to Dr. Moss and having that mental health component. I think that goes right in line with our Colonel's wellness program.
Right.
And it's vital.
Right.
It's
Partner,
vital.
again, we're gonna shut it down because I know we went over. And again, our production crew is the bomb. They do what we do.
Yes,
We
Mr.
love them.
Rizzuti, Officer Shaduli doing a great job behind the scenes for us. But we want to remind you that we are hiring police officers, and if you're interested in being a police officer or any other position with the Chesterfield County Police Department, you can go to joinccpd.org. Just joinccpd.org, and you can find us on social media outlets. Thank you so much.
All right, great job, partner.
Yes,
great
sir.
time. We'll see you next time.